So with that, this is a brief overview of Liquid. It's an unauthorized talk by engineers, and you can ask some questions. So Warren Togami will be giving a brief overview. We also have Jonas Nick. We have Pablo Greco and Nick Roose. I'm going to try to pronounce it. Cool. All right, so with that, let's get started.
Hi, so my name's Warren Togami. We were asked to come up with a talk like about an hour ago. So I'm going to first briefly go over what is Liquid, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers. So my approach to why Liquid and why Blockstream also works on Lightning is that there will be a future with multiple layer 2s for different purposes. And on top of that, you can build other tools and applications. And I just grabbed this from one of the marketing slides. It looks right. Okay. So the Liquid network, it does all of these things on the screen. It's actually true. But unlike the other networks with stable coins or NFTs, all of us are Bitcoiners, and if they forced us to sell a new gas token and to create a new currency, all of us would have quit years ago. Because the standard should be Bitcoin, and that's it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, the animations work. Okay, great. Okay, so briefly, the way Liquid works is that it is a sidechain of Bitcoin that uses a so-called multi-sig federation. So there were 15 companies, and at any given time, 11 out of the 15 at least need to be online in order to validate transactions and validate the security of any pegged Bitcoin that is coming from the Bitcoin network to Liquid or back in a peg out. So the blocks are on a clock on a 1 minute interval, and usually you can have a confirmation finality in 2 minutes. Sometimes it's a little bit more. And for security, the Bitcoin that's locked up in this large multi-sig it requires 102 confirmations of the Bitcoin side in order to claim on the Liquid Sidechain, but it's only, 2 confirmations to get back out? Yep. I copied this from a marketing slide, so I'm just checking if it's correct. Yeah, okay. Okay, so I think all of this is also correct. Liquid is comprised and pretty much exists between exchanges and for traders that use those exchanges. We don't say that everyone should use it. And because of the way the peg works, actually the next slide's about that. Okay, so one of the neat things about Liquid is that it has confidential transactions, meaning only the sender and the receiver and a third-party auditor to which you have disclosed the blinding secret is able to see the values transferred. And you can also issue asset tokens on this network, and all fees paid are denominated in only Bitcoin. Now, the cool thing about assets issued on this network is that the asset type is also blinded, and you can only see it if you are the sender or the receiver or the third-party auditor that has disclosed the blinding secrets again. Okay, if you're familiar with Bitcoin Core, the API to integrate Liquid with your application is almost the same. It has a few more RPCs. And we also offer a lightweight library that people can implement in a different way where you don't need a full node. Okay. Okay, so the key disadvantage about Liquid is that it uses a different trust model. So like I said earlier, like Liquid exists for a different purpose, like between these exchanges and traders that want to use those exchanges, and there's a few other use cases that want to use it, like for its blinding transactions. So like the federated custody model, for the blocks to flow, 2/3 of these companies need to be online and the internet must not be disrupted. But like the underlying theory is that this is vastly superior to the typical case where people keep, or what, millions of customers keep custodial balances on their local exchange. Like, I hope you know by now that's a little dangerous. And so the theory is that this massive multi-sig makes it so that like no single entity or even a few of them colluding are able to help you to steal. So it is not trustless, but it is reduced trust, maybe. Now the issued assets on the Liquid network itself are more defensible than that, because like there's scenarios in which, like if this network is somehow disrupted by, say, a nuke going off, the survivors could start a new network where they snapshot the UTXO set and all of the asset tokens could continue on that other network. Yeah, this is why they don't want engineers talking. Okay, so my recommendation is to use LBTC if you want the advantages of a specific use case. Like apparently one of the atomic swap markets is growing popular on Liquid now. It's like half of the transactions. I don't know, that's what they say. Like we actually have no way of verifying it because the transactions are blinded. But for long-term storage, like you probably want to like withdraw it and put it in your cold wallet like normal on the BTC main chain. So if you saw my talk yesterday about peer swap, you can find me on Twitter. I posted all the slides. So peer swap is the cheapest and easiest way very soon to balance your Lightning channels. And I think the conference will post the videos from yesterday after the event. So like this is one of the use cases where, in the case of PeerSwap, we offer multiple chains that people can opt in to swap their Lightning channel balance with. And Liquid is just one of the options that are offered. So like if you are paranoid about this federated custody thing, it's like, well, I argue that your Lightning node is putting at risk 24/7 online private keys. It's a hot wallet, and with PeerSwap you can keep more of that Bitcoin offline and repeatedly fill the channels that you already have. You need fewer channels and you're able to route more. You may use some LBTC to swap with some of those peers to repeatedly fill your Lightning channel. But the total amount of Bitcoin that you have at risk is lower, and the LBTC you have will have high turnovers. So that's my theory of how diehard Bitcoiners could accept this. It's like, okay. Okay, so one other theory for the future is like things like custodial Lightning wallets are popular because they're generally easy to use and reliable because they are very big and they have lots of channels. But there's the strong possibility that you have to trust these people not to make mistakes, not to get hacked, and not to disappear in an exit scam. So, like those being possibilities, we Bitcoiners have been recommending very strongly that your Bitcoin balances should be, you know, in like hardware wallets for on-chain, and you really need to have control of your own private keys for your own Lightning balance. And there's various solutions out there, but the existing solutions, you know, like people have talked about, the main Bitcoin network doesn't, like you can't possibly have one channel per human on the planet. So one possible future is for there to be not one but many side chains, maybe for different people or like for your group of friends or whatever. And like there are already hypothetical designs to build like automated bridging and automated routing between these side chains. So each side chain would have their own like separate Lightning network, all denominated in BTC. But there are software ways to automatically route to your payment destination and back. So okay, like this is a thing. Like I'm not trying to shill a Blockstream product. I'm saying that like under a regulatory regime, I think somewhere in Europe, like there are already like security tokens that are that I think non-Americans are able to buy. So that's one of the use cases on Liquid. And so like one of them, like I personally would describe BMN as like kind of like a hash rate derivative, where you profit more if the hash rate grows like this, and maybe less if it grows like that. Yeah. But yeah. And okay, that's it. Now we go to questions and answers. Oh yeah, blockchains do not scale. If anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying to you. Yeah. Oh, I wrote that here, okay. Okay, let's I'll go to a neutral picture. Okay.
Hello, thank you for your talk. Can there be any minor extractable value issues on Liquid? So for example, where the federation members, instead of mining a transaction that, for example, a buy on an atomic swap market, on other kind of decentralized exchange or whatever, they could instead include their own transaction to front run you basically the way that it's being increasingly done on Ethereum. Are there anything that could prevent that from happening on Liquid while still allowing the exchanges to be sort of auditable and for external people to check that they work correctly?
I think this is an interesting question. It has kind of two parts. One is front running when you're just making a payment to an exchange, let's say. And one problem would be that other actors on the blockchain see there's a huge transaction going to Bitfinex, let's say. So let's try to front run this in some way. And Liquid exactly protects against this because we have this confidential transaction feature, which means that the transaction amounts are encrypted, so blockchain observers are not able to see the size of the transaction. The other part is perhaps front running when there would be on-chain smart contracts on Liquid that would allow you to trade on Liquid, let's say. And there I think the answer, I don't know the answer, because that depends on what kind of schemes will be used as smart contracts on Liquid. But we're working on increasing the capability of this smart contract capability of Liquid by adding the scripting language Simplicity.
I recommend that you search for Blockstream Simplicity. Like we had white papers, and are there like code demos now?
I think generally a good resource is our engineering blog that you could probably Google.
Can you briefly describe like why simplicity? Why is it important for the future?
So I think the main idea is simply to increase the expressivity. I should try to rephrase that. But generally, why would you have a restricted programming languages like Bitcoin script? In Bitcoin, it's clear because we have to be really conservative with the things that we do there. On Liquid, we could experiment just a little bit more and see what people are doing with it. Now, you don't want just to use any smart contract language because usually they are completely flawed, at least from our perspective. And simplicity improves on that because simplicity emphasizes provability. So that means that you write the specification of what you want to do and then you can prove that the simplicity program does what you want to do. And simplicity does that by being relatively simple.
It's also worth mentioning that a thing that the Liquid network and its underlying code, the elements daemon, has helped for the Bitcoin ecosystem over the years is that it's been a place where we can experiment with possible future Bitcoin features. Like for example, the first Elements Alpha test network from 2015 was the first to have a version of Schnorr that's different from Taproot now, and it had a version of check sequence verify, both of which after we've learned from that experience, Bitcoin got a better version of it later. So one possibility is that after simplicity is proven to be safe and it is understood that it could become a future Bitcoin upgrade maybe 20 years from now. I think many of us advocate for moving carefully with Bitcoin because we want to be the opposite of EVM smart contracts where $1.5 billion were stolen or destroyed in the last year. Yeah, why do people who promote that have any credibility? But anyway.
I would like to ask if you're planning to increase the number of functionaries in the signing process. Is there something coming up or is there something planned?
Yeah, so the initial version of Liquid had a fixed consensus set, so there's 15 signatories or functionaries as we call them. We recently did a hard fork called Dynamic Federations, where the federation that's used to sign blocks and to manage the federated peg can change through a consensus process that's on the chain. So yeah, we're very much planning to increase the set of functionaries soon, now that the hard fork activated.
Okay, and are you, what's the roadmap here a little bit? Are you planning to add more functionaries over the next year? Is there sort of a first target you go, or
So the Liquid network is not owned or controlled by Blockstream. It is actually operated as sort of like a business association between the member companies. So what do they call it? The Liquid Federation? Yeah. Okay. The Liquid Federation has several dozen member companies now, and they hold elections for different boards. So it's really the member companies can join that organization, and it's up to the member organizations and the elected boards to come up with their own membership requirements And I think those membership requirements will likely become more and more strict over time.
Okay.
But we definitely have more than a handful lined up that want to be part of it, and that we're planning to, or that they are planning to phase in as part of the federation.
It's also worth mentioning that the underlying technology of Liquid that we publish under elementsproject.org is a reference implementation that others have already took without even talking to us and made their own federated networks. So like, and that was like even in the intent. So I expect that there will be more sidechains or even chains that are not like Bitcoin pegs, like built on the same technology. So Blockstream is the tech service provider to the Liquid Federation like association.
So now that we have Taproot, are you going to change the multisig scheme to use the Taproot efficiencies? And if you can, if yes, can you disclose the design or what will change?
What do you mean with design or what will change? If we will, yeah. So we have a Taproot soft fork also planned on Liquid that's going to activate very soon. But then, yeah, changing the federation and how they are signing the blocks and the Bitcoin money that's in the federation's wallet to Taproot, that's certainly planned, but that will take a bit more work. Taproot only just activated now on Bitcoin, so to change our whole infrastructure to Taproot, that will take work. But it's definitely something that benefits us a lot because we make 11 out of 15 multisig transactions a lot. So with MuSig, we can benefit a lot from the reduced signature size that we would have if we would move to Taproot and Schnorr.
Yeah, but it's not the highest priority right now. First, we need to enable it on the chain, and then for the view from the outside world.
So the approach by Blockstream is generally do things safely first and then optimize. So like the priority now is the so-called DynaFed transition into the new member set. But quite naturally, after that, we want to move to Taproot because the currently 11 out of 15 or the even bigger multi-sig of the next federation is very expensive. Like Liquid already pays a lot of Bitcoin to the Bitcoin miners.
As you can imagine, in fees.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility to pay for transactions not with liquid Bitcoin, but something, let's say a stable coin, some relay services, which, for example, I have on my balance some stable coins and I want to make a transaction. Do I need to have liquid Bitcoin to sign and pass this transaction? Or?
Yeah, so there's currently only one fee asset, and that's liquid Bitcoin. So for a transaction to pass, you need to have a fee that's in liquid Bitcoin.
And any plans to add some relay services?
Oh, yeah, that's not a technical necessary. That's like a policy requirement that we have for liquid. But if you build your own federated sidechain, you can have any asset, and we could potentially accept different assets as fees, but we don't currently.
Okay, thank you.
I think that there is one of the services on Liquid where you can have only a asset token, and then you're able to pay with Lightning, and then they'll add a LBTC input. No? Yeah. You can use off-chain Lightning Bitcoin to have somebody else pay for your non-LBTC transaction. That may actually be more efficient than creating more tiny UTXOs only for the purpose of fees.
Yeah, and if you can use Lightning to do that, you could in principle also use other assets to do exactly that, right?
Yeah.
Are there any ready solutions that you can suggest to use? For example, for the use case is if I have some security tokens on my wallet and I need to transfer them, some services which can accept, for example, stablecoin and sign this transaction, ready services. That it can be done, okay, I got it. But are there some services which already are deployed and can take care of this?
Are you asking for a service that allows you to pay for liquid fees in other
stablecoin,
assets?
for example?
No, I don't.
On RSK, for example, there are relay services, so you can pay with other tokens. They accept that token and sign your transaction by their RBTC.
Okay, yeah,
Is there something
I
clear?
don't think that exists on Liquid right now. Does it?
Okay, it may already exist, but it's not the role of the engineers to recommend any of the existing services. Like the engineers don't want to shill anything that's not Bitcoin, and we invite people to compete.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
sort of.
Okay, just to complete this, there's a service called liquid.taxi where you can buy, we can pay the transaction fee with Lightning.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions.
So, like, personally, I'm not a big trader. I'm not an exchange. I'm a Bitcoiner, and I ask myself like what's the key feature I would be looking at? And for me, it would be confidential transactions probably. And I'm asking myself like, overall, I would say if the whole Liquid network would be just Liquid transactions for Bitcoin or Liquid Bitcoin, we would see much more traction there. So we have a little bit of, I say, how you say, like to 2017, like the shitcoin bubble, like all the Bitcoiners are super skeptical with any aspect of these assets. But my real question is like these confidential transactions, do you have any insights from the Chainalysis companies, how much they can track and analyze the graph, and is there any feature coming to even improve there that you can add other addresses you can send it to enhance privacy?
So the way confidential transactions and confidential assets works is that it is blinded, and it is primarily for the purpose of like guarding against like front running, so that you don't get a worse deal from other people that see a big transaction that has happened, like you see on other chains. But it was designed specifically so that the sender and receiver are able to disclose a blinding factor or blinding, what's the correct term? Yeah, okay. Like the sender and receiver are the only ones privy to the amount and asset types transferred, but quite often the sender and receiver are a regulated entity, and if they are required to disclose information to somebody like an auditor, at least, they're able to give that information, and whoever has that is able to decode and see the asset type and see the amount transferred. Like it was designed to be audit compatible. Now, audit is a different problem from like what Chainalysis does, and I guess like that's also not the role of the engineers to know or care about what they're doing. Yeah. But like we know like how the math works. So it's entirely about who the blinding factor is disclosed to from either the sender or the receiver.
Some of the heuristics that these chain analysis companies use actually depend on transaction amounts, and these heuristics would be defeated on Liquid. And also coin joins on Liquid work much better than on Bitcoin. On Bitcoin they can be quite fragile because you have these amount issues where you can try to associate the output amounts of a coin join with input amounts. Since on Liquid the amounts are encrypted, these types of attacks are not possible anymore. But to my knowledge, there's no CoinJoin implementation on Liquid right now, but perhaps there are people who would be interested in doing that and building a CoinJoin product on top of Liquid, because apparently there is demand.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Warren, go ahead. Okay.
Hello. My question is, who are these third-party auditors, and can they see every transaction? And if they can see, what prevents them from leaking information?
So when I say auditors, is like typically a business in a country is required to like prove to their shareholders, for example, that they're not committing financial fraud. So they may disclose all of their information confidentially to only their paid auditor. And the point is not that there is like a global surveillance system that automatically receives all this information. It's rather like there are existing things in which you are required to disclose, but in the case of an auditor, it's only to that firm, and they're supposed to keep it private. But like, you know how things really are in the world, like things get hacked.
I think the key difference that Warren wanted to point out is that there's privacy coins where you can only disclose the coins that you have by giving someone the right to spend them, while in Liquid you can give some piece of information to an auditor that proves that you have a certain amount of balance on Liquid, but so that they cannot spend your balance. But that's only when the parties that are involved in those balances choose to disclose that information to any party that they want. That there is no global auditor or something.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.